Hello again, everyone. So, last lesson, we looked around and we found an answer to the burning question of what is Bootstrap? So, in this lesson, we are going to learn how to include Bootstrap in our projects. Now, there are basically two different ways to include Bootstrap. First one is to pull from CDN to our website. So, in other words, we include Bootstrap on our site by linking to it from a different server. Now, just to mention briefly about CDN, it's an abbreviation of the Content Delivery Network. So, yeah, it's a network system of servers that directs users who want to access a website to those servers located in, well, geographically desirable locations to them. So it enables them to retrieve services with a lot lower latency. What does that mean? Your website opens faster, and since it gets fewer requests, loading problems are prevented, it serves more users, you get more followers, you get more ads on YouTube, whatever floats your boat. And of course, the second method to include Bootstrap in the project that you're building is to do it the way that we're doing it here so that you can learn it better. You copy it and use the starter template. Now, this method may make sense, especially if you're creating a project from scratch and you don't necessarily want to deal with anything else, but also it's a much better way to understand everything that's going on. But there is a third method. You can download Bootstrap to the computer and use it. And for this, we can go to the official website of the Bootstrap library, getbootstrap.com, and download it free of charge. So to put these things into practice and better understand how to use Bootstrap, first I will create a new folder on the desktop, and I'll call it Web Development Projects. And I'll create another folder named Bootstrap under Web Development Projects. So inside of it, I will create the CSS, JS, and images folders that we're going to use later. So now we can open up the Atom editor and add the Web Development Projects folder. Then I'll create a new HTML file called index.html inside the Bootstrap folder. And we'll create the basic HTML structure. So we can go to getbootstrap.com to include Bootstrap in our project. So when we open up the page for the first time, what we see here is over 4.5, the last version of Bootstrap. So I'll click on the documentation section. Here you see a link under the heading CSS. So we can just copy this link and paste it into the head section in our HTML file. As you know, normally we write the name of our CSS file here, but now by copying the link address, we are adding already made Bootstrap files that are kept on CDN to our project, right? So it's because of this link that we'll be able to include the style variables existing in the Bootstrap library. And when the users open the page, it will be much faster because Bootstrap CSS files held on CDN are very likely to be downloaded on different sites that are opened by users. So browser caches this previously opened CSS file, and we progress faster because we don't have to download it every time. And yeah, that's pretty much the first method to include Bootstrap in our project. Very cool. So let's have a look at our HTML file and see what changes have been made thanks to the link that we added. So I'll just write in here, hello world, which is certainly classic in the software world with the H1 tag. And I'll look at what the browser looks like. So it looks a little different than what we normally write. But we can understand the difference a whole lot better when we comment the link section here and refresh the page. All right, so here, hello world has changed. But because we haven't added any styles right now, it's displayed as default. So as you see that when we add the link tag again, the font values change. All right, so for a second method, why don't we dig into how to add it into our starter template project. So I'll go to the Bootstrap site again. And of course, there is a starter templates section in this documentation section. And here we can see that it is for HTML5. So we need to be working with HTML5 in order to use this, right? And as you can see here, it contains the character section, the Bootstrap CSS section, and the jQuery section for JavaScript. Now, I'll fill you in on a little something here. Bootstrap uses jQuery for JavaScript plugins, but if we're going to use Bootstrap for only CSS, jQuery won't be needed. So we will start the JavaScript and jQuery module in our next lessons. But when using Bootstrap now, we may need JavaScript in some of the sections that we prepare with HTML and CSS, like drop-down menus. So why don't we just go ahead and copy this section completely and paste it into our HTML file. And we can also see the changes in the browser. And yeah, see, you can see the differences again. Now, the third method that we can use to download Bootstrap and jQuery files to our computer. So instead of the URL on the internet, you provide the bootstrap.css URL address that you downloaded on your computer. So the trouble is that the computer won't know that it's opened these files before, and it will load it up over and over again. So it might cause a little bit of a slowdown. Now that you know that, let's download Bootstrap to our computer, and we'll see how to add it. I'll just click the Download tab at the top right, and I'll press Download for CSS and JS. I can open the CSS folder when the files are downloaded. And here I'll just copy the bootstrap.css file here to the CSS file under the Bootstrap folder that we created. And I'll just do the same for JS. All right, cool. So that means that we have now downloaded all the files to our computer. So I can now add bootstrap.css as an URL in the link tag in our HTML file, right? Now, when we look at the bootstrap.css file, we can see the codes are already here, far out. So I'm going to do the same in JS. That's enough for now, I think. But I do want to say that throughout our course, we will pull Bootstrap on CDN and use these very handy codes. So this is going to be the method that makes you feel faster and far more logical. However, the choice is yours. It is up to you. You're going to decide how you will continue. Because in the next lesson, we're going to start doing up our project. See you in the next lesson.